20 minutes till the hour here at the Imus program. Please welcome to the program our old friend Carl Jeffers. Good morning, Mr. Jeffers.
Hi, Don. Good to be with you guys today.
So Carl told me you've been having a lot of dental work done.
I'm having a lot done, just sort of ongoing. You know, your executive producer, great guy, Tom Bowman, and I were just talking a couple of minutes ago, and he was making the point, and I couldn't agree more, that especially as you become an adult, get a little older, when you go to the doctor, sometimes the doctor says, everything's fine, you're doing just great, that's terrific. But no matter what you're thinking is okay, when you go to the dentist, they always find something else that they've got to work on or that you need to have done in the next 6 months, this sort of thing.
Did you have any pain?
Yes. The interesting thing is you really have pain when they're working on a tooth that wasn't giving you pain, but that needs to come out. Then, because you weren't having pain with that tooth, whatever they do for the first few days causes you a lot of pain.
So what did they give you for the pain?
They put me on the antibiotics, of course, and then the ibuprofen, pretty high dosage of that. But I didn't need the kind of painkillers that I'm likely to need in another week when they do the root canal.
So you didn't get Vicodin?
No, I didn't. I may need that in a week, but if they think so, they'll give that to me. So I'll just
stop. You're not doing this right.
They're not doing it right?
You're not.
Okay.
Whenever you have dental work of any kind done,
okay,
the first thing you say is, I need some pain medication.
Okay. Well, Don, you've had a different experience than I've had in life, with those kinds of things. I'm willing to accept whatever they feel is necessary for the dosage that I need.
You're an idiot. I don't mean that. No.
I didn't think so. Certainly not today. You wouldn't be saying that. No.
Have you ever taken a midnight train anywhere?
Midnight train. I've driven at midnight, leaving at midnight, but I don't recall taking a midnight train to Georgia or anywhere else. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I just had Roseanne Cash in here. She's got a great new album.
Okay.
The River and the Threads. Hit album already.
Okay.
In one song, she took a midnight train to Memphis.
Oh, okay.
In another train, she took another song. She took a midnight train to Barcelona.
That sounds tremendous. Yeah.
I used to work for the railroad.
Oh, okay.
We never took a midnight train anywhere.
No.
I've taken all kinds of trains, but not at midnight.
Well, some train rides are so long that it's great to fly midnight, to take the train at midnight, which reminded me, that's why I said almost by mistake fly, because this is my second red eye in a week that I've taken from L.A. to New York in the past week, and I just can't avoid them, but they just beat you up so bad, I'm now determined to try to change my schedule a bit in the future.
I don't want to waste a bunch of your time talking about my theory about midnight trains or duck hunting.
Okay.
On this Martin Luther King Day.
Yes.
So I was talking to Dick Gregory earlier, and I said, it seems to me that there's as much racism as there ever was, and he did not agree with me.
He did agree with you?
He did not agree with me.
I would also concur with Dick Gregory's assessment. I don't think there's as much racism itself as there ever was. The difference is that racism is the concept that is used too often to describe situations that are in fact about race, involve race, but don't necessarily suggest racism. And that's the concern I have too as well in this sort of post-civil rights era, that we have come a long way and racism in any form does not exist to the extent it did. In fact, part of the problem we have today is that we've become comfortable enough to let things come out, to start conversations, but not comfortable enough to really address them. And I'll give you an example that's very current.
Right.
I was listening to Warner Wolf this morning in the green room watching the interviews because I had not seen them with Richard Sherman from the Seattle Seahawks. And my first thought was, listening to Richard Sherman's comments, if A.J. McLaren, Alabama's quarterback, had been the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, and the Seahawks had beaten the 49ers with A.J. McLaren, can you imagine the rant from A.J. McLaren's mother about the language and the dialect of Richard Sherman, given what she said about Jameis Winston. And that's the whole point. And Warner actually said something last week that was so really, really prophetic about this. He said that had Alabama won that game, McLaren's mother would have never made those comments about Jameis Winston.
Right.
And that's the point. In other words, she was responding emotionally to the loss of her son in the game. And because we don't have a comfort level far enough along about racism, anything that she said about Jameis Winston, particularly if it was drawn from an experience of stereotypes, would lend itself to the charge that it was racist. And that's where we have, I think, a problem today. But racism itself, absolutely not as much as it used to be. And I dare say, Don, that many, particularly those considered to be leaders, many leaders in the black community need to, I think, be more sensitive to the fact that there are a lot of situations that they could, in fact, criticize or attack without saying that the person involved was a racist, because it doesn't rise to that level.
Yeah.
And you know, on the birthday of Martin Luther King, a little bit lighter note, because you remember a month ago we were all in the midst of the 50th anniversary of John F. Kennedy's assassination.
Yes.
Something lighter that I also learned, that while Martin Luther King was giving his I Have a Dream speech, John F. Kennedy was at the White House that day, and the only little TV was a TV in the White House at that time that Caroline Kennedy wanted to use to watch cartoons, so JFK let her keep that TV. So he watched the Martin Luther King speech on that little TV, and imagine, from one great orator like John F. Kennedy, who said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." He's watching Martin Luther King. He turns to one of his aides and he says, "Wow, he is really quite good, isn't he?" And it's just the visual of John F. Kennedy making that comment about Martin Luther King stays with me as just a symbolism of that whole era.
Of course, he was watching it because they expected there to be a riot there, you know.
Well, I think that at that moment, he was watching it, I think, because he was interested to hear what King had to say. In fact, at one point, when they were actually hearing sort of the chants of "I Have a Dream" coming over the loudspeakers from the Lincoln Memorial, which is not that far from the White House, John F. Kennedy turned to his usher, J.B. West, who's an African-American, and he said, "Gee, I wish I could be out there with them." Comments like that, when you visualize it and think about it in the symbolism of the time, that's very important, I think. That's very significant. But a year later, let's talk a bit about where Martin Luther King would be today, what he'd be talking about.
We only have about a minute.
Okay. In 1964, Lyndon Johnson declared a war on poverty with Martin Luther King at his side. Since 1964 to today, the percentage of American wealth that's gone to the top 1% has doubled. Last year, Wall Street was up 30%. The average American's income rose 1%. Last year, 46 million Americans were at the poverty level, and 13 million kids in America went to bed hungry every night. No question, Martin Luther King, if he were here today, would be not only addressing this issue, he would be criticizing President Obama, who just 2 weeks ago, after being in office for 5.5 years, announced a 5-city target program for anti-poverty activity. And I think that we need to remember that Martin Luther King was not just about fighting for civil rights. He was about fighting for rights for all people to be given a better opportunity in their country, in our society, and in the world. And that's how we can remember him best.
Always a pleasure to have you on this program. Next time you go to the dentist, so you got to write some Vicodin script. Come on, dude.
Do you want me to get extra? Is that it? To bring some back here? Or
well, just get
just get
some.
what I need. Huh?
And whatever you need, then
okay.
you give them to me.
All right, there
10
you go.
minutes down the hour. Thank you.
You bet.